Like, what do you mean he has to carry the weight? He died.
Welcome back to Pro and Noob. This is session 10 of Pro and Noob for Cowboy Bebop.
Yes, it is.
Covering the last two episodes of the show.
Real Folk Blues, part 1 and part 2.
1 and 2, yeah. Mitch 692, Jarod, as always.
Hello.
From the T-Naps.
Over at the Nerd Academy. I made a joke. We recorded Comic Book Cast earlier this morning. And I made the joke on the Blathering last night when I called in the Ken Knapsack's call-in show. I have to ask, do you just say Jarod from the Nerd Academy? Because I don't think I've ever heard anybody from CBC attempt my actual last name.
I think I've said the full name maybe twice.
Yeah. I just think it's funny that the amount of Scotty J-Ro, friend of this show, has multiple times mispronounced my last name on air.
Bachman, isn't it?
Bachman, yeah.
Bachman, yeah.
Bachman.
Because I remember seeing it like for the first time and it was like Bauman. And that's how my brain initially went to it, like Bauman. So, okay.
Scotty, I signed his marriage certificate, has said Bauman several times on the podcast. Yeah. And
I mean, technically you were at one point, right? If certain names were what you were or what your family was at one point, Barman works. Right.
I was Barman is more that bar, but I do like barman. I enjoy that. I enjoy that. You know, I was a barkeep for a time.
A barkeep, wow, tavern. Serving mead. Bloody meads with a bit of ye old Bloody Mary mix.
Sunday's Bloody Meaties. But yeah, we're at the end here, and I feel I don't know if vindicated is the right word. You know,
I had by the sounds of it.
I felt like, I don't know. To kind of travel back in time to Neon Genesis Evangelion, I felt this like weird sense of like imposter syndrome with that season, because like I felt like I from the first moment I didn't not even say notice, but understand why Unit 1 moved on its own. I immediately felt out of my depth and felt foolish and felt like I may not be a good fit for this show and had a crisis of my ability to understand things. And
we bring him down to lift him up. That's what we do.
Yeah. And from that moment on, I was like, okay, I gotta make sure people know I'm a good media understander.
I watched Thing Good.
I watched Thing Good. I sure hope I watch Thing Good, and I sure hope the people who listen to me talk about the things I watch think I watch things good. And going into Cowboy Bebop, I did not know what to expect from this show in terms of tone and in terms of plot. I knew what to expect in terms of aesthetic and vibe. And as the show went, and as the show went on, I was more and more recognizing this ongoing theme of people like running from or running to where they are meant to be and making peace with who they are and where they are, and whether or not they want to change that. And I felt like I was understanding what the show was saying, but there were moments where I was like, oh man, like this, like I had a couple moments like maybe it isn't that deep, not as a slight to the show, but as like maybe this is just a fun adventure of the week thing. And I am, over analyzing, which I don't think is a bad thing. I frequently admonish people who say it's not that deep. Even if it wasn't meant to be, it still can be. That is all a matter of like how willing to engage with a piece of media somebody is. And I found myself going into the end of the story here like I said, not knowing what to expect. My gut had told me that like things are building towards vicious just because like we get him so early on and then at the midpoint, and that like he feels like the only way you can end the show.
Yeah.
And if it feels like like a final conflict with him is it. And I was excited to see that I was right about that. I was excited to see I was excited and kind of enthralled by the fact that, like, I'm going to say something and then I'll explain it, that Spike really doesn't have that much going on.
No.
This is a very simple story. And I was so curious about like what made him run away so much. What made him go so far to wipe his slate clean, expecting a greater betrayal by Julia, expecting a greater cost from his time with the Red Dragon, that like for it to just simply be, I found somebody I loved and we didn't want to be a part of this anymore. And she was given an impossible choice and had to make a decision. And I ran away after very narrowly escaping death. And I was like, surely there's more to that. And there wasn't. Yeah. And I applaud the simplicity. That was an interesting
Sometimes less
choice.
Is more.
Sometimes less is more. Sometimes more is more, but sometimes less is more. And I don't know. It kind of ended in a like obvious place. You know, like I felt like the two obvious endings were, Spike goes into this situation to die, or it's a very happy ending. And we arrived at this very bittersweet conclusion. And I find myself so, it's not necessarily, I'm not saying I found myself empty. I was not made to feel empty because this finale was lacking. I was just surprised by how little of a resolution there really was. I was surprised by a lot of choices Jet makes.
Yeah.
I was surprised by how much Jet washed his hands of everything by the end. And sure, I think you can glean from how he behaves that it's, partially I think he means what he says. We're like, this is Spike's fight. I have no place in it. This has all just been so much trouble for me. I just want to like let him do what he needs to do. But I do think there is a almost fatherly level of this is your fight. This is, I know you well enough to know that you don't want cover fire. You want to face this man on your own. And, that was really complex and heavy, just trying to unpack Jet's headspace. Faye, for the first time, became a voice of reason. Became a like emotionally sage individual who was like, hey,
it's for some selfish reasons, but yeah.
Well, what do you mean?
Well, she doesn't want him to go purely because she's realized her place is on that ship. And she just doesn't, she's trying to, where she's obviously, she's regained her memories and she can't cling on to that anymore. She's now clinging on to this. And Spike is obviously a big part of that.
There's truth to that. I also think that there is some level of somebody like Faye Valentine who has spent so much time looking after nothing but number one that doesn't know how to voice those feelings without it sounding that way.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
I do think she earnestly does not want Spike to do this because she knows Spike
I'm not saying
that
was the entire reason. Like that's just part of it. Like it's one
selfish,
of those, it's selfish not for the sake of being selfish, but it's selfish for other reasons.
I mean, it goes back to, like we just did on Nerd Academy, the like 20 Years of Revenge of the Sith, and we were talking about like the possessiveness with Anakin, right? That like, do I think in my heart of hearts that Anakin Skywalker loves Padme Nabire Amidala Skywalker more than anything in the galaxy? Yes. Do I think he would do anything for her? Yes. Do I think the core of that love is not centered on her existence, but his inability to function without her? Yes. And it is that possessiveness. So do I think that Faye, after shedding so much of her baggage, is like right now at least only capable of a possessive love? Maybe. I think she would grow beyond that. But oh man, like it is heavy. Like I really do want to revisit this now, knowing where it ends, because as we got to like the midpoint and the back half of this show, I think if you go back and watch our episodes, I was picking up on a lot of foreshadowing and was calling attention to a lot of foreshadowing that like I did obviously couldn't know how it would end, but felt like this is teeing something up.
Yeah.
I think the image of Spike laying dead on the stairs is going to be an image that sticks with me for a long time. Especially because that hallucination, you know, of him just like walking up the stairs for forever, walking away, you know, and it's him coming down the stairs now. Of like, you know, I've not only accepted what I've lost, I have accepted my own fate. I have accepted that like I need to do this thing, and what happens. And, you know, I think the thing that like is gonna, the thing that makes Spike so complicated for me, you know, I wanted a happy ending for him really badly. I wanted him to.
I think you kind of get it.
I
think if you, from a certain point of view, you can say that.
I'm rubbing off on you, Mitch.
Probably, yeah. What would you expect me to say? Talk about Star Wars every week.
It's my primary point of reference, but
it's true.
That was just funny to hear somebody else say, well, from a certain point of view. How about that? No, but like, I have such a hard time calling it happy, though. I have such
it's
a
not
hard
like
time
it's
happy.
not it's not happy. It's more happy. It's more happy in the sense that he's kind of got what he wants, right?
Yeah, and that's really bleak.
His existential boredom, right? He's kind of taking a slow walk into death. No, he's not about to do it himself to himself. He's wanting someone else to do it.
I have such a hard time looking at that as a happy end. I mean,
it's just quotes happy.
I know, and I'm not even saying that like it not having like a optimistic ending is inherently bad or anything. I just so badly wanted to see Spike have an aha moment.
Yeah, and I get you, man. Yeah,
and he doesn't. He truly doesn't. No. Like this is the same guy who, as time has gone on, has gotten more nihilistic about his own well-being. You know, if it happens with the space shuttle, you know, the way, you know, maybe this will be the one that gets me shit. Like this is a man who like is hanging on by the thread of a thread. And it was so bleak. And so like there's a sense of like kind of like wanting and almost wistfulness about the way that it's like once Julia is killed, like he has nothing to live for. And it's like, no, like there are people on that ship who love you, man. And there's something worth fighting. There's always something worth fighting for. And maybe I am just naively optimistic, and maybe the stories that mean the much to me are about how there is always time to keep fighting and make the right decision. And maybe that has just shaped me and my media diet so heavily that like when I see Spike Spiegel and I'm rooting for him so much to go, there is something worth living for, that for him to make the exact opposite calculus and like go into a final battle intending on dying when everybody else wants something better for him. And I think that's the thing that is like pulling me from like relishing in how, and I'm not saying that I'm not relishing in how bittersweet and melancholic it is, because it is beautiful and it's incredible. But for me, it's like, like Jet just wants to go back to life as normal. And Faye is like, my home is the Bebop and I want my whole family here. And even Shin is like, I was waiting for you to take over the Red Dragon. Like everybody, and obviously Julia, let's run away together. Let's be happy, go to where nobody can, hurt us. Like everybody has like a future in mind for Spike, except for Spike. And I almost see him as the only member of this cast that failed the test. Of not being able to make peace and move on. Like, I don't know. I do not see death for the sake of an exit as peace. It's heavy, it's dark, it's complicated, heavy, yeah. And I really want to revisit the show. Like, I just, damn. I was rooting for him and Julia so much.
That's, you could apply it to people that take their own lives in the real world, right? Like everything you said applies to legitimate people that end up taking their own life for one way or another, in one way or another as well. Like, when it happens, they have their own piece and their own idea of it. And I think that's how the only way Spike can really move on and genuinely be happy at this point after everything is the way he went.
And I see that and I understand that and I respect that. It's not a subject matter that like gives me pause in particular. I just like, I don't want to really, really bring the fucking mood down on the there's no fucking baby show. But my middle namesake is my mother's best friend who took his own life.
Yeah.
And I've known a handful of people, as I'm sure we all have, unfortunately, people who have made that discussion, and content warning, I'm sure will be in the fucking description. But like, I've watched too many people have to pick up the pieces of their own life.
No, 100%.
After a life adjacent to them is extinguished in such a way. And the show,
arguably there's only one good outcome for one good, very heavy quotation marks there. In fact, it's going to get the double. But only one side of it has someone come out happy, right? There's only a good outcome for one person from one perspective in that situation. Whereas you got people like Jet and Faye, where they know what's going to happen. They know why he's going there. No matter what Spike says to them, they know what isn't really going to happen. They know he doesn't want them there. They have to pick themselves back up afterwards. So like, it is messy for both sides.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just, on that level, that's why it's so hard for me to look at this as a win for him. Like, yeah, he killed Vicious and, he's triumphant and he's avenged Julia and he has gotten, retribution for the betrayals against him. And that's wonderful. And that's great. And, rah, Spike Spiegel. But like, I don't know. There's just something about the vibe of this show that is so, and it's just so much of a contrast to its actual subject matter. I made jokes.
That's always the way, though, right? Especially like with a depression of any kind, like existential boredom or whatever. You have that stereotypical moment of, oh, but they never seem sad. They never seem this. They never seem that. They're all so happy or lively and bubbly. Like that's what it's doing. You're seeing Spike on the outside, but you never see him. You only get glimpses of him on the inside, right?
Of course. I just mean like the presentation of this show is just so smooth. It's suave. It's stylish. It's sexy. And, I just like, it's so hard for me. And we made jokes about it during Evangelion, right? Where it's Cruel Angel's Thesis is such like a pop anthem juxtaposed with child soldiers who are in a weird cosmic spiritual war. Like, it's so hard to square, but I think it's even worse here because it's so hard to square just like the raw cool factor and sex appeal of, and it's so stylish and stylishly shot and gunslingers, gunshots, we're all cool and it's cool in the gang and it's noir and it's Western and it's sci-fi and isn't it set suicide by arch rival, what? And it's like, it is just such an anathema to itself that like that's also hard for me to square. And I'm looking at, I'm just so hung up on Spike's death, and I feel bad. I feel like I'm shortchanging the finale as a whole, but like those final moments, kind of shook me to my core. And I also kind of wish, I don't know. I think, and maybe this is me being a bad at watching things person, I feel like I need permission to feel like Spike is at rest. And by that, I mean, I wish I got to see Faye and Jet's reaction. I wish I got to see Faye and Jet go, damn. And make. I was
like, sure, but you know what that reaction is.
I know what that reaction is. Even fling me like a week into the future, and Spike is being laid to rest, and everyone's mourning him.
Not to make it even worse, but that's if he gets that.
Sure, but let's say he does, and to just have a moment where like where Jet and Faye, and maybe even Ed.
Yeah.
And if a couple friends from along the way are there to just go, he was carrying so much. There was so much on his shoulders. There was so much eating away at his soul. He lost everything. And like, there was one last fight he needed to face to feel at peace. And because he got to do that, we know he's okay. And that is a feeling I have a hard time having about this character because I know the people who cared about him the most. I don't know if that's how they feel. I don't know if they're angry at him. I don't know if they are angry at themselves for not disobeying his wishes and following him into battle. I don't like that weight of it all and how reckless Spike is with his own well-being is this weird sticking point for me.
The answer is yes, though, right?
What do you mean?
Or just yes to all of it?
I know, but and
they're
like
angry at themselves, they're angry at him. No.
Of course, and all of those complicated emotions, but and it's just like looking at it in retrospect, the whole show, but also these final two episodes. We've never seen Spike fight with the ferocity he had whenever he had Julia with him. And that was something that occurred to me watching the final battle. That like it was a level of ferocity. And of course, like, there's a difference between I'm trying to beat up this guy to take him in alive versus there's a bunch of armed thugs shooting at me and the woman I love. So like, I kind of got to take the kid gloves off. Obviously that's going to come with it. But like Spike was
vicious.
He was vicious, and there was no nonsense. There was no showboating. There was no
nonsense. Tiny.
What's your tiny nonsense?
He kicks a grenade into the building straight away. Literally kicks off the entire thing.
No, I'm talking about when he's like running and gunning with Julia.
Oh, the Julia bit. Yeah, sorry, no, yeah. With the Julia bit, yeah, he's very laser pimp.
There's no bits. There's no silliness. There's no quips. There's no nothing. It is gunfire, direct orders, tactical thinking. This isn't the same Spike who gets punched, feigns back and goes, oh, I wasn't expecting somebody who was my match. And then goes into like the crazy, multi-hop kicks. This he picked up a shotgun. The first time we've seen him use a weapon other than a pistol this entire fucking show. The first time he went from, I just want to provide cover fire, suppressing fire, to I am here to put you down if you come near us. And it is just him just pumping people full of lead.
And that shotgun has insane range.
Range. Yeah, that 100-foot shot was hilarious.
When he's on the rooftop and he hits the guy in the car. Oh, so good. It's like, how? How?
Yeah.
I love it, but how?
But that was a moment that stuck out to me looking back on it in the 15, 20 minutes I've had since I finished the episode, where I was like, I've never seen him fight so concisely.
No.
And for Spike, for somebody who loves to tussle, there was no relishing in that, because he had a clear objective, because for the first time he had something to live for. There was no time to be silly and showboaty because his whole life was in front of him.
And then ironically, because he wasn't acting how he normally does, it goes tits up. When he's not being the showboaty typical Spike for the last 24 episodes, the one thing happens that he doesn't want to happen. He makes one mistake.
And it costs him dearly. And yeah. And after that, like you were saying, he then, going into his fight with Vicious, is as flamboyant as he's ever been. He comes in the big coat, and he's driving in, and he kind of donkey kicks the grenade in there, and he's
I love the kick, by the way. I know calling it silly is one thing, but I adore how he starts there, literally kicking the whole thing off. It's like
He's great. And it's he has his little akimbo moments. He's monologuing at Vicious. He has that moment with Vicious where it's like, oh, I ended up with your sword and you ended up with my gun. Trade you, where they both there is a brief moment of agreement.
Yeah.
Of we're doing this for ourselves because we want it to end like this. It's such a stark contrast to how cold and clinical and efficient he was to now it is all showboaty, because it's Spike Spiegel who wants to he's like, if I'm going to die here, I want to put on a good fucking show.
Yeah.
And anybody who crawls out of this building will be able to tell the story about how I dropped the whole Red Dragon by my goddamn self. And yeah, it's heavy. And it's unfair because I got to build up to this sense of emptiness with Evangelion. I was slowly having my ability to feel things drained from me with Evangelion. With here, I was like, oh, wow, this is some really fun character study, and it's so cool and sexy and suave. And then for the last episode to be suicide by arch nemesis, I was like, oh, yeah, there it all goes. And I'll give the show credit. I was talking about, it's so hard to square Tank with how this show ends. The last episode does not have Tank in it.
No.
Which was the moment I went, oh no, because I've never skipped the intro, and I was like, oh, I got one more left. I was bullshitting on my phone a little bit during episode 25, during the intro, and just kind of
no intro for you.
And I was like, ba-da, 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 ba. Like listening to it, I was like, just dancing, a little bit while I'm sitting down. Do a little Trump jerk off dance. But I was like, okay, here we go. Ads ended. And I was like, all right, guys, last episode. Here we go. Black screen that says Cowboy and Bebop. And I went, oh, no.
That's exactly
that can't be good. No. That can't be good. No. I also knew it could not be good because Real Folk Blues plays as he's on his way.
The entire time, yeah.
To do the damn thing. And I'm like... Question: was that a different arrangement of Real Folk Blues, or
that is the original version of it? It's the Japanese version of it. It's not the.
It's not like the Japanese Until the Hook version.
Yeah.
Okay. Because it sounds like it's in a slightly different arrangement. Because it sounded a little lower, but either way, I was excited to hear the song. We in the same way that you and I both wish there was that piano suite version of at the end of the rebuilds for Ava. But fuck. I'm just
I promise this isn't what this entire
I was going to say, so is all of Pro and Noob just going to be let's get Jarod invested in her? I can't promise it's not
going to happen. And thinking about it, not spoiling what we've got coming up next, but it's a theme in anime. You always get.
I can tell. I'm aware. I understand that.
Part of me thinks these two are the reason why.
That it kind of set a tone for a very not clear cut ending.
Anime is always going to be we have to have. No, we have to hurt them somehow. How do we do that?
I can tell you this. After Evangelion, after Cowboy Bebop, and I can't remember the name of the next thing we're doing, but
you don't know it because I haven't told you.
Yeah, that's right. You just told me that it already had its first season and you want to do week to week coverage.
You could probably kind of guess if you ever pay attention to what I've been like on Blue Sky, but
yeah, I don't go through your likes, but
it's not even the likes. This is what I post on there.
Oh, fair, but I just I'm really looking forward to you making good on the let's catch up on My Hero Academia season.
We will do that.
There's a part of me that's really man.
Jarod,
I'd like to do some cape shit. I'd like to do some cape shit.
The fun is we're not doing My Hero next. I'm just going to put that out there.
I know that.
I'm to the point now. My Hero is probably going to be after Visions.
I just got to survive whatever the fuck you have coming next.
Jarod, I promise you.
I get to look at the light at the end of the tunnel going, I will get Star Wars into superheroes.
I'm taking a bit of a swing on the next one because obviously, as I told you, it is new, but there's some parts of it I don't know how you're going to take. And that's part of the reason why we're going to do it.
God damn it.
I want to know how you're going to go with this, but it's not in the same vein as Evangelion and Bebop, so don't worry.
Oh, good.
But I have to ask you something.
Yeah.
Because you have quite frequently in this show brought up the eye, the prosthetic eye.
Yes.
Did you catch the little cinematography thing they did?
What?
Every time we see a flashback of Julia, it's in his left eye. He's always facing that way, or they always focus on that eye. When Julia comes back into the picture, they look at his right.
Oh, that's brilliant. Oh, I want to sit down and rewatch it right now just to look for that. That is remarkable. That's so cool. That is so beautiful.
And the color's just that slight different shade of brown. Yeah.
damn.
It's a good show.
This is really good. This is really good. And my condolences to everybody on the Bebop. Like I said, I don't know. I don't know if this is a hot take, but I do feel like this was Spike failing the test. I think I stand by that take.
That's fair. That's totally fair. I think you can look at it either way.
You know, like everybody was able to move on and he couldn't. He didn't want, I don't think he wanted to. And
I think part of it as well is it's a bit of guilt because Spike instigates the entire thing.
Yeah.
You know, it was Julia and Vicious and they have the affair and they run away. It's just like, So I think it was always it had to come down to this.
I forgot that Julia technically cheated on Vicious. I forgot about that angle.
Spike's the bad guy. He's a good guy, but he's a bad guy.
Yeah, he's a complicated dude, and he was a complicated dude. But yeah, I'm sorry that the final 2 episodes of the show is such a short episode of Pro and Noob. It's just like I'm just so stuck on how it ended. I'm just so like
you can ruminate on shit for a week, and then that's a big word for me. And then we can talk about. It's really funny right now. You're doing that. Your camera or the feed is like stopping and coming back in. I can't. I think it's just my end again.
Okay, I'm looking at me because I'm like, I know I'm moving just fine, and you're good on my side.
So like, I'm trying to gauge the reactions of what you're doing just purely from the voice, and then you just got the for like 10 seconds. Like,
oh Jesus! I donkey kicked my microphone at me. I hope you saw that in 4K.
No, we didn't. The last time it did this, it was fine, the video, so hopefully it's going to be the same.
Okay, it should be fine then. But yeah, like I said, I have a lot of, I'm kind of left, here's a question for you. That final shot of the episode where I also love that.
Which one, before or after credits?
Well, actually, let me say 2 things. First, one of the things I do feel vindicated about was like when I said that whatever episode it was that I was like, this almost feels like the show could have ended here. And it felt so final because it was like that, like the camera ascending through space.
Yeah. I can't think what one that was.
I really love that it actually did happen in the finale as well.
Yeah.
But that shot at the very end, the white and black one.
The one
after the credits.
Yeah.
Was that Spike and Julia?
No, it
was just I couldn't. It was just so bright, and like the shading was in such a way where like I couldn't tell if I was looking at 2 people or not.
Yeah. No, that's not how you spell cowboy. That's Cowboy.
Cowboy.
No. Yeah, no, it's literally just a close up of Spike's head. It's the hair, his nose. His face.
I see. Because I was stuck. Can I screw up your format just so I can screen share?
Do it again. Shoot.
Because I literally was like, as I stood up to stretch and I'm staring at it, and I thought I was supposed to be seeing something here and then here with like the collar and the hair. I was like, it was so bright and like the way it was framed, I couldn't even make out his face for a moment. But okay, that makes sense.
And then you have the final little tagline, which I think is really unfair.
What was it? You can carry the weight?
Yeah.
I can't remember the exact.
Or you got to carry that weight. It's something like that. I'm like, man, fuck you. I'm already doing it because of Spike. Like, don't.
Yeah, that was the other fucking thing. You got to carry that weight. Yeah. It killed him. It killed him. You haven't done a lot of like clip me out of context for the intros in a minute. Here's a good one for you. Like, what do you mean he has to carry the weight? He died. Like that was the thing that I was like initially kind of fucked off about, where I was like, and again, and I very quickly was like, just because it wasn't what you would have done doesn't make it bad, and that's fine. And I'm all saccharine Pollyanna bullshit with how I like my endings. I need my Ewoks dancing and shit. But like fuck a duck. But fuck a duck, man. Like, I like you got to carry that weight works if Spike doesn't fucking commit suicide by Vicious. Because then everybody's carried their weight past the point. Everybody, because then you realize like we carry the weight together. It's not on you alone. Things will get better. You got to carry that weight. All right, well, if I got to carry that weight, the next time I'm having like a bout with depression, I'll book a flight to Florida. I'll walk up to Alden's house and he'll fucking pop me. And I carried the weight. I carried the weight. Like, there's a part of me that's just like, I don't like that it ends like that. I truly don't like that final tagline. There's a part of me because like you got to carry that weight. It fucking killed him. Yeah, but it's not anything.
It's everyone else has got to carry it, right?
Everybody has to carry their own. I know. But like ending on the guy who couldn't, ending on the guy who was broken by it, it just makes me feel icky.
But you could also look at it like it's not a fuck you sort of tagline.
I know it's not supposed to be fuck you. It just feels a little like empty. Jet carried the weight and he's doing pretty okay. Faye carries the weight and she's getting better. Whatever the fuck's going on with Ed, but like
Ed's Ed, man, I tell you, Ed's living their best life. No.
Ed be Ed.
Ed's got a free like IQ dog. No, it's totally fine.
Like I just
living a dream.
There's a part of me that feels like See You Space Cowboy would have been perfect here because like it almost feels like I'm trying to think of a way to say this that does not sound crass or dismissive.
I disagree if Space Cowboy would work here. I think if every tagline was something different and then this one ended on See You Space Cowboy, yes. But I think that it was See You Space Cowboy the entire way through, no. But another episode. Obviously, it gives it a different context and everything. But
that's my thing. Is that like because I think it then retroactively leaves you feeling as though the See You Space Cowboy was not just a cute tagline. It almost feels like a goodbye from Spike. I was trying to find the words that don't end up being like suicide note. But then, I do think that like it gives an element of foreboding that everything was always building towards him saying goodbye, and that See You Space Cowboy is us saying goodbye to him. But
then it's in line with how Spike was to Faye at the end, right? You just gave a wax poetic about metaphors and whatever, or using metaphors, and then that's the last one you get. Look, you can sit on it for a week. We'll come back and we'll talk about the entire thing.
I'm gonna have to. But yeah, I think that's all I got.
It's an ending.
It certainly is.
I think it's one of the best endings of all time, to be honest.
It's a great ending. I am just conflicted about tone, and I'm conflicted about how it makes me feel. Like, these are one of those moments where I can look at the art and go, this was masterfully done. It's just how it made me feel is complicated.
That's good then, because it's supposed to be complicated.
Yeah, I know.
I know it's not your teddy bears dancing.
It's not. But
you're using the heads of the fallen as drum kits and xylophones. No.
Okay, we don't know how they got those stormtrooper helmets.
I think we know exactly how they got those.
They took a lot of prisoners on Endor. We saw so many stormtroopers simply surrendering at the end of the battle. So those could have been stormtroopers.
Worse.
No, they just took away their fucking armor when they locked them up, and now they're just playing yub nub.
I don't believe that bears.
Yub nub.
Just because a bear's small doesn't mean he's gonna like pour off a dude's head.
Listen, you got to talk to Taylor about her takes on the Ewoks, because she's always like they got, oh, she said she's like they got front facing eyes. Means they're an apex predator on Endor,
and they're big round eyes as well.
And they're big round eyes, and then I'm like, actually, there's a bunch of subterranean massive spiders that we saw in the Star Wars Ewok TV show.
Only
and
you.
And then she slaps me.
TV show.
And then she slaps me for it.
She rightfully slaps you as well.
She's never laid hands on me. She's never laid hands on me. I felt the need to immediately walk that joke back. Taylor's never laid hands on me for actually her about Star Wars.
She might
She's cussed me out. She's cussed me out.
She has the right to. Don't condone domestic violence, but every now and then, an Ewok defender deserves a good slap, a good wake up.
But her thing was like, they have flat teeth, which implies that they're vegetarians. But we see them hunting animals, which implies that they're omnivores by choice. Which, that phrase of they are omnivores by choice has always haunted me ever since she said it. I was like, fuck.
Miss Taylor is a very smart person.
She's brilliant. She's absolutely brilliant. But yeah. No, and again, yeah, it's not my Ewoks dancing. It's not, as somebody on Blue Sky said, which sent me into a fucking frenzy this morning after we were done recording CBC, Jedi Coco Melon. Somebody on Blue Sky referred to the Ahsoka show as Jedi Coco Melon for adult idiots. And I was like, wow, you fucking suck.
Coco Malone is a very good Star Wars name.
Coco Malone. That's like Zero the Hutt's Grand Vizier on Coruscant. And she's like, Coco Malone! Come and take Count Dooku!
See what?
Dude, funny little bit before we wrap up, because I need to say this to make myself laugh because I'm so depressed by the ending here. Nikki Kumar of Imperial Senate Podcast. Anybody who listens to that show, please go do, because Nikki and Charlie and Claire, they all rule. But Nikki Kumar does an amazing Zero the Hutt impression. Now, I had never seen him do it, as I've not physically met Nikki yet. But one day, me and all my friends in Star Wars world, we're all talking, and somehow Nikki's Zero the Hutt impression came up. And they played it for me, and it was the funniest thing I had ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
And I was showing Taylor the Clone Wars, and Zero shows up. And every time Zero spoke, I just couldn't stop laughing because all I could hear is Nikki Kumar's impeccable, it was Count Dooku. And I'm like, and it's like, I couldn't stop thinking about it. She's like, what are you laughing at? And I texted Nikki at like 10:30 p.m. I was like, hey, this is really fucking random. I need you to send an audio message of your Zero the Hutt impression so I can show Taylor. And he replied within 5 minutes. And I fucking was dying. And I told him, and I explained to him, I'm like, this is one of the funniest things I've ever heard. I just need you to know, this is my favorite Star Wars impression ever is your Zero the Hutt. And this year for my birthday, he did not text me happy birthday. He sent me an audio message going, happy birthday, Count Dooku told me to tell you. And it's like, and I think he knows that like saying Count Dooku in the voice is kind of that like anchor phrase.
Yeah.
Like in the same way that like people who do Trump impressions, like they have like the same way he'll come back here. People are saying, anybody who does a decent Trump impression, they use people are saying to reset the voice in the same way that Jerry from Bombadcast and I, anytime he and I do an Alex Jones impression, it always comes back to folks.
Yeah.
There's that word that you have in your mind's ear of like, I know exactly how he says this, and if I can come back to this, I can almost reset the voice. But yeah, I'm super depressed and I gotta go mow the lawn. But it was Count Dooku.
That's right. Just play the real folk blues and cut the grass.
I'm just gonna be sobbing. Real folk blues. Ba-da-ba-da.
Now, every time, if that's in any Spotify playlist, it's going to hit.
Michael and I have been talking about making like an official Ionized Bastards like soundtrack playlist. The only reason we haven't is because we're trying to convince Eli to he's posted this, I think, on his Twitter before, and it only lives on SoundCloud currently. But Eli, he goes to school for music, and he wrote a number of Ionized Bastards themes.
I remember you guys talking about that.
He digitally composed them and arranged them. They're on a SoundCloud somewhere. OchiFan327 is his Twitter handle. If he didn't delete his Twitter, I don't think he deleted his Twitter. But if you can find it there, it's incredible. But we're trying to. Eli is like, oh yeah, I got to get around to putting them on Spotify so that Michael and I can make the playlist. But Real Folk Blues is absolutely going in the Ionized Bastards playlist. I think that song and its tone is right at home with that story as well.
There's something about sci-fi, and like jazz and blues.
Sci-fi, and it's a bunch of fuck ups playing jazz and blues to feel better. It works.
Whack a harmonica in there is perfect.
Oh yeah,
love a harmonica. It's just a vibe.
I need my space jazz playlist, so it'll be Cowboy Bebop, Cantina Band 1, Cantina Band 2, Lapty Neck.
I want to recommend something, but I don't know if we're going to watch it or not. I don't know how it's going to play, but it's like, it's so good.
We'll see. But yeah,
what it's called.
That's all I got for this one, guys. I'm sorry I didn't have much to say. I need a week to process and simmer.
Yeah, Google Just Communication by 2Mix. It's from
Just
Communication. Marv, if you're watching and you've made it this far, you are welcome.
You just want me to like blind listen to it?
Yeah, sure. You can do it on your own time if you want. You haven't got to do it right now. But
I'm ready to like just do it right now. Okay, cool. Well, I think that's all we got for you guys. Mitch, you have any pluggables before we bring this home?
Yes, as I said last week, there's obviously my Final Fantasy 14 Sprout talk for the tanking. That's out. My Monster Hunter title update 1 for Monster Hunter Wilds even is out now. So I talk about how I feel like they're taking that game, even though it's only been out for like a month and a half. But it's a very good start. So yeah. Also, I have finished Clear Obscure now, so everything Jarod's feeling times it by 10 for me. I don't know how I'm even talking right now because Jesus Christ, that game. But that will come out at some point this month. It might be sooner than later. If not, it will definitely be at least the last Wednesday. Actually, I might do it on a Monday because we're taking a break after this. It'll be the last week of the month of May. So I need to get cracking on that if I can actually stop playing the game, that is.
Yeah. Clay Obscura starring my girlfriend Shadowheart.
Jennifer English, please. Though, does she know that she's your girlfriend? Because she has a girlfriend.
I'm saying Shadowheart is my girlfriend.
Okay.
I'm saying Shadowheart was my first romance in Baldur's Gate.
What's a little bit?
She's a slow burn romance, which it takes a lot to build up to the. Yeah. So to my knowledge, you can basically make Whoopi with pretty much every party member in the first act, except for Shadowheart.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And it was like a nice little slow burn romance. A lot of things have to happen for her for like things to move to that place.
So I love how you called it Make Whoopi.
Thank you. I was like, I got to say something funny here, and I don't want it to be super crass. Listen, I love to describe that. I have been yelled at by individuals for using the phrase "make fuck."
But it's so good. Make fuck is so good.
Thank you. Thank you. I thought it was quite funny when I said it.
Do you know what? I think I've decided, especially after our conversation after last week's episode, which would have been yesterday for us. You're in the wrong country. You were born on the wrong continent.
Why is that?
You would have been welcomed a lot more here. You wouldn't have had people be like, "Oh, Jarod's a liability." No.
Okay, without a context, Jared's a liability. This is all of my friends thinking I would have made an ass of myself had I made it to Japan. Meanwhile, those of you who watch the Bombadcast, no.
Like you would have been absolutely 100% absolutely would have been, but it wouldn't have been classed as a liability. Right.
Again, smash cut to Scotty going, Haruto! I am fucked up! But anyway, thank you all so very much for joining us. Be sure to check everything out at the Nerd Academy Podcast. I think that's all we got for this one, and see you.
You can carry the weight.
That too.